All right, let's jump right into this explainer because today we're looking at something absolutely phenomenal. We're going to break down a brilliant, handwritten epic that instinctively, and I mean almost effortlessly, hits every single major beat of a blockbuster action story. We're talking about a short, incredibly impactful narrative called Asteroid Man. What we have here is literally a masterclass in pacing, character development, and narrative escalation, and it's all packed into just 3 notebook pages. It's a massive testament to the primal, ingrained structures of storytelling that we all inherently share.
So, treating this earnest and raw text with the analytical gravity it completely deserves, let's look at the setup. It starts exactly how a classic myth should: an ordinary man in an ordinary city. There is zero preamble here, no drawn-out backstory to bog us down. We are immediately thrown into a world where a threat is looming, an asteroid seen on the television. The author wastes absolutely no time getting us straight to the inciting incident.
Which naturally brings us to a really fascinating question. What actually makes the perfect superhero origin story? Think about your all-time favorite heroes for a second. They all share that one specific moment that completely shatters their normal reality, right? A sudden infusion of power followed by an immediate test of that power. Well, Asteroid Man doesn't just borrow these universal tropes, it distills them down to their absolute purest, most concentrated forms.
Part 1. The Inciting Asteroid Incident. To kick off our chronological deconstruction, we really need to look at trauma in the sudden, literal impact of our protagonist's origin. Just think about the wild compression of time happening here. Day 1, Hour 1, he sees the threat on TV. Hour 2, that exact same asteroid crashes directly into his house. It goes from a distant, global threat to intimately, devastatingly personal in a flash. And from that chaotic destruction, the consequence is immediate. He gains supernatural powers. No 3-week training montage in the Himalayas yet. Just raw, unfiltered cause and effect.
And you've got to love how the text perfectly isolates the raw emotional core of the character before the real action even kicks off. It literally reads, his eyes glowed with fire because he got anger. I mean, it's profound in its simplicity, isn't it? The superpower isn't just physical, it's fueled by a deeply human emotion. The destruction of his home triggers a righteous fury, visually represented by eyes glowing with fire. That is a visual motif that completely rivals any million-dollar Hollywood special effect.
Driven by this glowing anger, our guy takes immediate agency. He flies right up into the sky and blasts the remaining asteroid threat. But then, and this is my favorite part, notice the emotional come-down. After blasting the threat, the text notes his anger logically subsides. He relaxed, and he slept the night. It brings that frantic first act to a beautifully grounded close. He doesn't go brood on a gargoyle in the rain. He just gets a good night's sleep. It's the perfect reset.
Now, using the author's own massive, underlined next-day transition as our guide, let's see how the narrative builds. You can practically feel the weight of those giant letters and that arrow pointing us forward. The author knows exactly how to pace a serial narrative. Act 1 is definitively over. The hero is established, the initial threat is neutralized, and we are propelled right into the next phase of his evolution.
Section 2. Harnessing the Elements.
So Act 2 opens with the ultimate hero fantasy, the massive, rapid expansion of superhuman abilities. Asteroid Man didn't just get one measly power from that space rock, he is about to become a godlike figure. This reads exactly like a video game character stat sheet, giving our hero total agency over his environment. The text tells us that the very next day he got all nature powers. We're talking fire, air, water, earth, and the incredibly intriguing mixed element. By expanding his arsenal instantly, the author ensures he's equipped for literally any future threat. It's a massive power-up that escalates him from a guy who just survived a crash to a full-blown planetary defender.
Section 3. Forging the Supersuit.
But look, raw elemental power isn't quite enough, is it? A true icon requires a legendary uniform. You can't just walk around in your civilian clothes when you have the power of the elements at your fingertips. You need an identity. So the crucial point here is how this incredible run-on sentence in the source material functions perfectly as a high-tech crafting montage. He gets the idea to make a suit, he starts making every single part, and then, in a stroke of absolute creative genius, he uses his newly acquired earth powers to physically fuse the suit onto his body, gaining the suit's abilities. He literally becomes one of this armor. It's a permanent physical transformation that elevates him from a man with powers to a fully realized superhero.
With the suit securely fused to his body and all these new abilities unlocked, the author hits us with another massive, underlined next day to signal the incoming climax. You can almost hear the dramatic musical swell here. The preparation is totally complete. The hero is fully formed, he's armored up, and he's rested.
The narrative tension is perfectly primed for a massive conflict.
Section 4. The 10-Day War. And here is where the pacing accelerates breathlessly. The stakes are instantly raised from a single falling rock to a global monster threat. The world is about to test Asteroid Man's new limits because he encounters a monster called the Earthmaster. But he doesn't face this immense threat alone. In a classic comic book twist that beautifully reinforces the theme of unity, the text says, "Suddenly his friends came. His allies arrive exactly when he needs them to back him up." It transforms the narrative from a solitary journey into this epic team-up, expanding the universe in a split second.
Now check out this staggering number, 10. This represents the massive scale of the 10 days of battle, proving once and for all that you don't need a $100 million Hollywood budget to escalate the stakes. Modern movies will take 3 hours to show a 10-minute fight, right? But our author distills a grueling, epic 10-day global war against monsters into a single, breathtaking sentence. After 10 days of battle, he finally won. The sheer endurance implied here completely cements his legendary status.
Section 5. The Relentless Hero.
Following this epic victory, our hero finally returns home, which brings us to the final, unrelenting phase of his journey. He's tired, he's victorious, and he honestly just wants to go back to his space. This progression brilliantly catalogs the rapid succession of enemies he faces, really showcasing the relentless, run-on pacing of this highly imaginative third act. First, we had the inciting incident with the Sky Asteroid, then the boss-level Earthmaster, and finally, just when you think the story is completely over and he can rest, Enemy 3 appears. The author perfectly captures the harsh reality of the superhero genre. Peace is only ever an illusion.
In the final manuscript entry, he goes back to his home, and suddenly, a monster attacks him right there. The battle is brought right back to where it all started in Act 1, but this time, he is no longer just an ordinary man watching TV. He fights with his fully realized mastered powers, and he wins definitively. The story ends on a triumphant, unquestionable victory. And won.
This perfectly paced, beautifully raw epic really reminds us of our universal ingrained desire to protect our space and our innate understanding of how a hero is built from the ground up. It leaves us to wonder, when you have the power of the elements literally fused to your very body, what other adventures will Asteroid Man face tomorrow? Is the fight ever really over, or is the next underlined next day just waiting to turn the page? Think about that the next time you look up at the sky.